But before we begin, do me a favor. Click the like button now. This simple gesture greatly helps the channel grow and ensures that more Ravens fans have access to this content. Subscribe too. It's free, and you'll stay up to date on everything. The most underestimated signing of the preseason. Okay, let's start with what caught my attention the most this week. And I bet you haven't yet realized the magnitude of this signing. The Ravens signed a 2-year, $10 million contract with safety Jaylen Hawkins. $10 million. Seems like little, right? Seems simple. Seems like just another preseason signing. But let me explain why I believe this may be the smartest and most underrated signing Baltimore has made this preseason. To understand Hawkins' value, you first need to understand the gap the Ravens are trying to fill. Baltimore's defense finished the 2025 season among the 10 worst in the NFL. That's right. One of the most respected defenses in the history of American football ended the year in shambles. And one of the main reasons? Injuries. The secondary, the backfield defenders, was massacred during the season, and it cost dearly. But the problem didn't stop there. In the 2026 offseason, the Ravens lost 5 free agents on defense. 5, and 2 of them were safeties. Alohi Gilman, who went straight to the Kansas City Chiefs, the champions by the way, and Darius Washington, who decided to reunite with former Ravens coach John Harbaugh, now with the New York Giants. Harbaugh taking pieces away? That hurts, doesn't it? So here's the scenario. Baltimore enters the offseason with 2 safety positions already defined. Kyle Hamilton, a star, and one of the best in the NFL at his position, and Malachi Starks, a first-round pick in the 2025 draft, full of potential. But they lacked a third safety, that versatile player that the new defensive coach Jesse Minter's system needs to truly function. That's where Hawkins comes in. Who is Jaylen Hawkins? Jaylen Hawkins is 28 years old and is coming off an incredible season with the New England Patriots, a team that, incidentally, almost reached the Super Bowl in 2025. Almost. And he played a fundamental role in that. In the regular season, in just 15 games, Hawkins recorded 71 tackles, a player present in every corner of the field, 6 passes defended, disrupting opposing receivers, 5 quarterback pressures, a safety who blitzes? Yes. 4 interceptions. 4. That's elite. 3 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. And in the playoffs, he made 15 more tackles and put pressure on the quarterback. The guy doesn't stop. He plays with intensity all the time. Why is this signing so good? Now, let me explain the real reason why this signing is so underrated. Jesse Minter's system demands a versatile third safety, not a specialist. Not that guy who just stands in a corner of the field. Minter needs someone who covers, pressures, stops the running back, and generates turnovers. And Hawkins does all of that. The Ravens finished tied for 15th in the NFL in turnovers in 2025, with only 20 for the entire season. For a team that wants to compete in the Super Bowl, that's insufficient. Baltimore needs to steal more balls. Hawkins, with his 4 interceptions last season, has exactly the profile that can change that number. But there's another piece in this puzzle that will further increase Hawkins' impact. And that's the hook for the next topic. Because what good are good safeties if the opposing defensive line can easily create plays? What good is Hawkins waiting for the ball if the quarterback has plenty of time to play? That's where the big name the Ravens brought to the defensive line comes in. And this story has a much deeper context than it seems. But before we talk about that, tell me in the comments, do you think Hawkins will exceed expectations in 2026? Comment below. I want to know your opinion. The domino effect. Trey Hendrickson and the system. The Ravens brought edge rusher Trey Hendrickson to the roster. And mind you, this is no ordinary player. Hendrickson is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL when he's in top form. And why does this matter to Hawkins? Because American football works in a chain reaction. When you have a pass rusher who threatens the quarterback on every snap, the opposing offense needs to use more blockers. That means fewer receivers on the route. That means smaller windows for the QB to play. That means a safety like Hawkins, who is already positioned in the right places on the field, will find interceptable passes much more frequently. Baltimore only had 30 sacks in the 2025 season. With Hendrickson, that number should increase considerably. And when the pressure mounts, turnovers come next. It's the math of American football. Jesse Minter is building a system that works in a cascade. Strong pressure, pressured quarterback, bad passes, safeties like Hawkins in the right position, turnovers. Simple on paper, hard to execute, but the Ravens are putting the pieces together. However, and here's a big but, there's still a huge gap in Baltimore's defense that Hawkins and Hendrickson alone can't solve. There's a position in the middle of the defensive line that's so unpredictable, so unstable, that it could crumble everything the front office has built so far. And there's a possible trade that could be the solution to that problem, but that also carries a huge risk. Want to know who it is and how much it could cost? Then you're not going anywhere. The trade that could change everything. Darren Payne. Okay, now let's get to the topic that I know will divide fans' opinions. The Baltimore Ravens desperately need a defensive tackle, but the free agency market is over, the draft is still a long way off, and the only viable solution right now is a trade. And there's a name on the radar that makes a lot of sense, but also raises many questions. That name is Darren Payne, defensive tackle for the Washington Commanders. Who is Darren Payne? Darren Payne was selected in the first round of the 2018 draft by the Washington Commanders. Since then, he has been a reliable and consistent starter. In 130 games, he started 124. That's commitment. That's consistency. His career numbers are impressive. 432 tackles, 81 quarterback pressures, 65 tackles for loss, 37 sacks, 25 passes, defended 7 forced fumbles, 6 fumble recoveries, 2 safeties. And that's very rare for a defensive tackle, 1 interception. In 2022, Payne went to the Pro Bowl for the first time, with a personal record of 20 quarterback pressures and 11.5 sacks. This was the best Payne the world of American football has ever seen. The problem, and it's real. But here's the point you need to pay attention to, because this is where the risk appears. Since that Pro Bowl in 2022, Darren Payne has accumulated only 11 sacks in 3 seasons. 3 years. 11 sacks. The elite pass rusher he was in 2022 seems to have disappeared. He remains a solid player, especially in containing the running game, but that explosive and dominant version? This is still an unknown. And there's more. Payne is in the final year of his contract. This means that 2026 is a crucial year for him. The contract will impact the Commanders' salary cap by $27.95 million. The base salary is $16.4 million with a residual value of $16.2 million, a considerable amount, an amount that scares any team. The Commanders, faced with this situation, may want to trade him before the contract becomes a burden on the salary cap. And that's where the Ravens come into the picture. The trade proposal. The simulation circulating is as follows. The Ravens would receive Darren Payne, plus a 6th-round pick in 2026. The Commanders would receive a 3rd-round pick in 2026, plus a 6th-round pick in 2027. At first glance, it seems expensive for a player whose production is declining. But let's analyze the Ravens' context to understand if it makes sense. The Ravens' defensive line failure. The defensive tackle position in Baltimore is currently in a state of total uncertainty. And mind you, I'm not being dramatic. The facts speak for themselves. Travis Jones is the most solid name in the group. He plays well, but he's not a player who will dominate a game single-handedly. John Jenkins has done a good job as a nose tackle, but the guy has 13 years in the NFL. 13! How much longer will he last at the necessary level? And then there's the most worrying factor of all. Nnamdi Madubuike and Broderick Washington Jr. are dealing with injuries. Nobody knows if they will be ready for Week 1 of 2026. If both arrive with limitations or out, Baltimore's interior defensive line will be in shambles before the season even starts. Darren Payne would solve this problem immediately. He can play as a nose tackle, replacing Jenkins, or play more on the bench, depending on the scheme. From the first day of training, he would be a starter. No long adaptation period, no learning curve. Is it worth the cost? Now, the crucial question, is giving up a third-round pick in 2026 too expensive? Look, the Ravens have a roster with Lamar Jackson at the peak of his career. They are in a competitive moment now, not 3 years from now. Now. And when you're in that moment, sacrificing a third-round pick, who might become a rotation player or never play, for a reliable and experienced starter makes strategic sense. Obviously, Payne's contract would need to be restructured. The Ravens would have to negotiate with his agents to lessen the impact on the 2026 salary cap. But this is not uncommon. It's the everyday reality of NFL. It's not the contract. The biggest risk is Payne not performing well enough to justify the trade. If he arrives in Baltimore and plays economically, missing the third round will be painful. But if he arrives motivated, and remember he's in the final year of his contract, which means he's playing to survive in the NFL, Payne could have a resurrection season, and Baltimore would be the beneficiary of that. The post-Max Crosby fiasco context. And here's a point that can't be ignored. The Ravens already tried to make a big trade this offseason and received a huge rejection. The name was Max Crosby, the edge rusher from the Las Vegas Raiders. Baltimore was interested, negotiations took place, and in the end, nothing. The trade didn't happen. It was a bucket of cold water for the fans and the front office. So now any new trade possibility comes with more pressure, because the Ravens need to show they can close a big deal. Darren Payne would be that answer. This trade is far from certain. It's a simulation, a real possibility, but not yet a fact. What is a fact is that the Ravens' defensive tackle position is on high alert, and the Baltimore front office will need to do something before Week 1. The question remains, will the Ravens have the courage to give up their third-round pick for a player who may not be the same as in 2022, or will they try their luck with the current roster and hope that injuries don't destroy the defense before the start of the season? And you know what's interesting? The answer to that question will depend heavily on how the next few weeks unfold. If Madubuike and Washington return 100%, the need for Payne diminishes. If injuries persist, Baltimore may have no choice. The offseason chess game continues, and the Ravens are playing a complicated game, piece by piece, decision by decision. So, let me ask you a question to answer here in the comments, because I want to know what you think. Should the Ravens complete the trade for Darren Payne and bet that he will return to Pro Bowl level, or should they keep their draft picks and trust the current roster to overcome injuries? Comment below. This debate is important, and your opinion counts. And if you've made it this far, that tells me you're the kind of person who truly loves the Ravens. So do the following. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, like this video to help the channel grow, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new content. Until the next video, go Ravens!